Welcome to the show, sports fans. This is the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, talking District 3 activities week in, week out. My name is Brandon Baney. This guy is Logan Green. Hello, Logan.
Hey, Brandon. How are you doing?
I'm good. And now that the small talk is out of the way, we will dive.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
If only every intro could be like that. No, we are you and I are both incredibly busy this week here at Idaho Sports HQ. And so this Prepcast might be a little on the shorter side. We're just going to really skim through what's happening. And then we'll be back maybe with a more beefier Prepcast next week, because there's this thing called the Battle in Boise that's kind of taken over the city there, Logan. And of course, IdahoSports.com is going to be heavily involved with that. And that's really consuming a lot of our life right now.
Yeah, and it's going to be an awesome event. It's going to be great. Tomorrow or Friday, if you're listening to this Friday morning or whatever, on Friday, there will be 3 games at Boise State on the Blue. You'll be able to see it. And really, like, I think, Brandon, the best game is going to be the 8-man game. I mean, if we're being black and white, completely honest, that's going to be the best game. Kendrick and Oakley played last year. I know they're not Treasure Valley teams, but if you are in the Treasure Valley and you're thinking, oh, I'll just show up for the Fruitland Emmett game, don't show up for the first game. It'll be worth your time. It will. Last year, those 2 teams played in Cambridge, and I was there for the game, broadcasting it, fending off the Wasps in the press box there. But went down to the final drive. I think it was 52-48. So definitely worth your time to go check out all 3 games. Don't just come for Fruitland Emmett. Don't just come for Gatlin Bear, which people are going to do. Come for all 3. It should be a fun event, and all of them will be broadcast right here on Idaho Sports. So if you can't make it and you want to see, these games, like we said, the Kendrick Oakley game, worth it. You can just watch it on Idaho Sports. And a lot of people, they want to see Gatlin Bear on the Blue. I think that is the elephant in the room that probably needs to be talked about. This is his first time playing a live game right on the Blue, unless he did it when he was really young. But we'll have it, so you can watch every snap right here on Idaho Sports. So it'll be worth your time to watch all 3. Should be fun because you've got interesting storylines across the board in all 3.
Yeah, and again, Burley is a Magic Valley team, but in their season opener, Burley did defeat Mountain Home 78-20. Gatlin Bear, 2 touchdown receptions, a touchdown on the ground, and he returned a punt for a touchdown as well. So I'm just saying, he set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, and I was listening to Coach Anderson talk to Paul. There's a great article right there on the homepage of Idaho Sports that Paul Kingsbury and Coach Cam Anderson, they had a chat, and it's just interesting stuff you never think about, like, because of what teams have to do to guard. Obviously, this is not Magic Valley Prepcast, but what teams have to do to guard Gatlin Bear obviously leaves gaping holes other places, and they've got other athletes that are not just him. But if you double, triple team him, somebody else is going to be open, and there's going to be a lot of points scored when they're on the field.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, Cameron Anderson, the head coach at Burley, formerly at Gooding, is a good ambassador for not just his team, but really the state of Idaho and high school football. And I have not found a coach that will work harder to get his players noticed by colleges than Cameron Anderson. And he's a great hype man. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you go, you should go listen to it. If you listen to this, go listen to the YouTube video. He says something super I think fun in it. He said that he puts this event together and he has tons of schools asking him, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I think the question is, why was there not a 5A SIC school in it? I think that is a question that people had out there. It's right in their backyard. There's even I think teams playing at Donna Larson at the same time, basically just down the road. And he makes a great point that this is a showcase. They want to put, this is a concept. They want to see if it works before, inviting Rocky Mountain and Mountain View there, and that place putting 15,000 people in the seats. So going to do a trial run here, see how it goes, and then different teams. He wants to make it 6-game event over 2 days. So definitely more to come on this event outside of just this year.
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal is to have a 5A, a 4A, a 3A, a 2A,
Yeah.
1A D1, 1A D2 ultimately. And so, yeah, I'll do one better, Logan. People can go watch that interview on the Idaho Sports YouTube channel, but I will also take the audio of that interview and put it in this podcast feed. So people
There you go.
Treasure Valley Prepcast or any of our Prepcasts, I will take that and give you a little bonus episode so you can hear it. It's half an hour.
It's really good. It's really good.
Yes. I listened to it a couple of times already. So, yes, the battle in Boise is coming up Friday on IdahoSports.com at Albertsons Stadium, home of the BSU Broncos. Let's backtrack to last week real quick, Logan. I'm just going to hit on one game from each classification. I think the big story overall was Emmett. We'll start at the 4A ranks. Emmett goes on the road to Blackfoot, wins a wild back and forth affair, 33-30. It comes down to a walk-off field goal. Tyler Welling comes out for a 29-yard field goal, nails it as time expires, and Emmett walks off 33-30. What an exciting win.
Yeah, and from what I was talking to somebody about this game, and Emmett didn't throw a pass beyond the line of scrimmage except on that final drive. And they go over, not a huge gain, but enough for a first down. And I think Blackfoot wanted the ball back. And when Emmett got the ball late in the game, they called timeouts. And Emmett's like, well, fine, we'll just run the ball then. And they take advantage and go down and score. And huge win for them. I think they had some injuries on that team, so they had some guys out. But still able to get it done on the road in Blackfoot. And they are a team that you will see right here in the Battle of Boise this week.
Yeah, in the weekly rewind that I posted from week 1 of the high school football season, which if you haven't checked out, you should. It took me a long time to put together, so I would really appreciate you checking it out. But it's got a recap of a detailed recap of just about every game there was in the state of Idaho. You're not going to find that anywhere else. First of all, it took me a long time to find all this information and compile it. But in the Emmett recap, I was talking about Isaac Brennan, and I mentioned he was a running back. Mistakenly, he actually was playing quarterback for Emmett, like you said. They ended up not really throwing the ball much.
No, they never threw it, no.
And so there was an injury in practice. Isaac Brennan then steps into the quarterback spot and makes his first career start. And all he does, Logan, is set a new school record for most rushing yards in a game with 315.
Yeah, I think, did they not? They almost pushed 600 total rushing yards or something like that as a team. But 315, maybe you've got something there at quarterback, just let him run. If they can't stop him, they can't stop him.
Yeah. So congrats to Emmett. They're 1-0 to start the year with a wild win over Blackfoot. I was interested in that game more for Blackfoot's sake because I think Blackfoot's going to be better than people are giving them credit for. They're very young, and I knew Emmett is a good team. So both teams passed the eye test there. Bishop Kelly is 1-0. They beat Capital pretty badly. Columbia picks up a win over Fruitland, a team we're going to see at BSU on Friday. Columbia's 2-0. Very sneakily, Jared Payne is a guy to keep an eye on. He, again, filled up the stat sheet, 153 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 152 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns, fumble recovery, interception on defense. He's my early 4A SIC MVP because he just does it all. So keep an eye on the Columbia Cats sitting at 2-0.
Yeah, that's one I look at and think, wow, Columbia, not Fruitland. That was more of a wow, Columbia is good, rather than Fruitland maybe is struggling because man, that Fruitland's always good. They're always in the mix, right? And Columbia, it's good to see some strong football for them.
Yes. So that was really exciting for Columbia, 2-0 under second-year coach Charlie Dotson. All right, let's go to the 2A ranks, Logan. That's where I think the next biggest story occurred. And this was, you could pick a couple of games here, but I want to highlight Marsing. Marsing hosting Orofino. They went to Orofino last year and won. This year they're hosting Orofino. Obviously an Orofino team that is still dealing with the loss of starting quarterback Drew Hanna, who tragically passed away earlier this month in a car accident. But Marsing sets, I think it was the school record or the first time they've scored, more than 60 points in a really, really, really long time. Marsing wins 66-6. this was a great opener for Coach Shea McClellan and Marcin.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a good offense to put up that many points. Doesn't matter who you're playing. You got to be able to move the ball somewhat decently to put up 66 points. So congrats to Marcin on that big win. Like you said, just tough situation for Orofino, and that's just going to be tough. But on the opposite side, Marcin looked very good in that one.
Yeah, Cash Hance, 2 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown. Zion Fleary, 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. Jace Shade was slinging the ball all over the place for Marcin. Caleb Smith took a fumble back, 60 yards for a touchdown. So yeah, Marcin 1-0. We'll see if they can keep the momentum going. They did this last year and then got into the teeth of the conference schedule and ran out of steam a little bit, but it was a good week overall for the WIC. Melba went up to St. Mary's for a Saturday battle and won a shootout 38-22. St. Mary's was picked as the co-favorite in that league up there in our preseason coaches poll, so that was a nice win for Melba. Coal Valley Christian bounces back after losing to Wendell last week. They beat Parma 62-6. New Plymouth starts the Tony Cade era off 1-0. Logan, they beat Payette 40-14. Payette was a team I was pretty high on after their win over Caldwell last week. So now I got to be really high on New Plymouth, right? After a 40-14 win.
Yeah, that was one that, we're always at games on Friday nights and we scan looking at scores. And that's one that I saw come across because my game took forever in the lightning delay. And I said, wow, what a win for New Plymouth. They really, it's a good Payette team. I mean, Payette has improved a lot, and to beat them like that, that's impressive for New Plymouth. So congrats for them. And like you said, I think the conference is a little more open than it has been in past years. Melba just isn't the juggernaut that they're still good. They're still good, but I don't think they're just a runaway favorite like they have been. Sharpie them in, and maybe somebody else has a chance here. So it should be fun. This race the rest of the year.
Yeah, and Nampa Christian was the team that was picked above them all, picked to win the preseason. They challenged themselves right out of the gate, went to Declo, kind of the favorite over there in District 4. Declo wins 39-16. So for Nampa Christian, okay, we saw where we stood at a statewide level. Back to the drawing board. How do we get better? I'm really intrigued to see how the Trojans do this week. Okay, let's jump up to 5A now, Logan, where we had Rocky Mountain traveling all the way north to Coeur d'Alene. This is a Coeur d'Alene team that had just beaten Rigby, which, by the way, Rigby's 0-2. I'm not too worried about that, but that's East Idaho talk. Rocky Mountain travels all the way up to Coeur d'Alene. They pitched the shutout 16-0. Check out this stat line for the Rocky defense. 7 sacks, 4 takeaways. They only allowed 2 yards rushing in total. This was just a dominant defensive effort.
Yeah, and I think even you look and say, oh, they only scored 16, but I think they turned it over at the one time Rocky did, and it probably could have been more points than that, but man, heck of a defensive effort by Rocky Mountain. And I mean to go on the road and do that, that's hard, right? To go up north on that long drive after Coeur d'Alene had all the momentum in the world. They had to be feeling on top of it after knocking off Rigby, something nobody's been able, well, I guess in the playoffs, nobody's been able to do recently. But they go up and they really just stomp Coeur d'Alene. Like they do. They really put their foot down on defense and really play well. And man, you know what? That translates. You gotta, if you're Middleton, right? You say, maybe we're not so bad. You feel bad losing your opener to them, but you say, hey, at least it wasn't that bad. So just some other interesting storylines coming out of that when you use that, transitive property that totally is relevant and is real and it matters. So,
there is definitely a trickle down effect in the SIC. Like you said, you start looking at how other teams are doing. And yeah, you say Rocky Mountain only scored 16 points, but understand this is a Coeur d'Alene defense that is also very good. I mean, Coeur d'Alene's defense came up with 4 takeaways as well. So, I mean, this was just a good old-fashioned defensive effort. Brody Swearhart takes a pick 6 back for the second week in a row. He did it against Middleton. He does it against Coeur d'Alene. We'll see if he can keep it going this week. Gunnar Thompson, 213 yards on the touchdown passing. And Jaron Akibe he's like Terrell Owens. He's just your classic prototypical receiver. He had he caught 12 passes for 74 yards, and he had double-digit receptions last week. He's already up over 20 receptions on the season. This is
in
impressive.
2 weeks. Yeah. No, that Rocky team is just, they lost a ton of people from last year's team, and all they've done is just maybe got better. They're a good team, fun to watch, and they're just going to get better. And everybody in the SIC's got to be thankful for them coming. That's going to have another ripple effect, right? Is them winning that game on the road up north brings back a max preps boost to the entire SIC. It really does. And so just something to be aware of as the season goes along. You say, how are these cross-state games? Because pretty much everybody, not everybody, but almost everyone in the SIC has one of these. And if they come back with wins, again, you always hear that everything's stacked against everybody else, the state of Ada. But right now, that's the way, when it starts like that. And if the 5A SIC teams keep beating teams from other areas, and, Meridian has one of the biggest chances later this year, and they're going to play at Highland. But it could bode well for the SIC when it comes to at-large bids when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, they're backing it up right now, so you can't really dispute what's happening there. Mountain View did beat Meridian 31-26 in kind of a wild back-and-forth game. Meridian is now 0-2, but 2 very, very difficult losses. I think we're learning Meridian's defense maybe not quite as strong as it was last year. The offense is capable, but they're at least 2 games in, they've gotten into some shootouts, and it's come down to a handful of plays. And then the 2-0 club, Bora is 2-0, Owyhee is 2-0, Kuna is 2-0, Boise is 2-0. Logan, which of these teams is most likely, I'll ask you this, which of these teams will stay undefeated the longest between Bora, Owyhee, Kuna, and Boise?
Kuna. I think Kuna. I need to look at the schedule. Kuna, who do they play? Eagle tonight, so maybe not. But I don't know. Again, it's so early that you don't know like how teams translate. But Kuna's had 2 solid wins, and so I think we're going to learn a lot about Kuna. I think if those 4 were to have a tournament, I think Kuna would be the winner of that. I'll say that's how I think of that. And you look at who teams have played, and you can say this and that. But I think probably Bora is that next level in that. Owyhee did put a beat down on Centennial this week, and that was one that caught my eye because the offense really struggled at Madison. I mean, they scored 3 touchdowns. Well, they only scored 2 touchdowns, but one of them was on a 5-yard drive, and one of them was a 1-play 25-yard drive. So really no long drives for Owyhee in that Madison game, but then they put up over 30 points against Centennial this week. So that's how I'll stake it. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I think at the end of the day, I think Kuna is probably the best out of that group, but Bora and Owyhee just behind.
Yeah, so that Centennial score was deceptive. It was a 1-possession game at halftime, and it was a 1-possession game into the midway through the 3rd quarter. Centennial hung tough, and then Owyhee finally started.
Just broke through.
Yeah, Ryan Brecky is a really good wide receiver watching the film. He's a good tall target that Matt Irwin found a couple of times. And so, Logan, the answer is Bora, and I'll tell you why. Because this week, you have a knockout game. Boise is at Owyhee, so one of them is going to cancel out the other.
Right.
We talked about Kuna hosting Eagle. That's going to be a tough battle. Bora gets Nampa this week at Donna Larson Park Thursday night, so tonight. I think Bora wins that. And then you look at, okay, if Owyhee and Bora both win this week, let's say, well, Owyhee's got to play Mountain View next week, while Bora will play Kuna. So, but that is literally Owyhee plays Thursday, Bora plays Friday. So I think Bora, by virtue of playing Friday, will be the last undefeated team.
Right.
They could all have a loss by this time, in 2 weeks. So we'll see. 5A SIC is fun.
Yeah, I was trying to do some math really quick. We talked about the Meridian defense, Brandon. Yeah. This is what they did last year. This is what they gave up. Their first game, they played Eagle and gave up 14 points. Mm-hmm. From there, 7, 7, 6, 6, 0, 12, 3, 0. 6, 10, and that's a playoff game. Like the most they allowed last year was 14 points in a regular season game. They gave up 28 in the state championship to Rigby. But really, I mean, Rigby had only scored 14 until the final 2 minutes, and then they scored very late, and then they had a pick six. So this is something to discuss, or to at least be aware of, that Meridian's defense, whether I'm sure they're still great. Obviously, they're still a good team. But last year, when they played Eagle, they only gave up 14. And last year when they played Mountain View, they only gave up 7. So just something to be aware of for them this year, that defense maybe not where it was last year. Offense, though, I think is definitely better. I think they put up a lot more points than they did last year, but just something to be aware of.
Yep, it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt. They've got a good coaching staff in place though with John Zamberlin, and they will adjust. All right, let's go to 3A football. Logan, the big story was Weiser and Buell. Buell won District 4 last year. Weiser took second to Homedale. Weiser wins pretty convincingly, 42-21. Buell's got a lot of sophomores this year. They're kind of a younger team in the cycle, but it's new faces for Weiser doing the same stuff.
Yeah,
we're used to seeing that Wolverine T offense, as Coach Tom Harrison likes to call it. Jaden Walker, 109 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing on just 8 carries, Logan. He carried the ball 8 times, rushed for over 100 yards, and 3 of the 8 carries went for touchdowns.
It's just, like you said, new faces, same Weiser football, right? And 3A football is just so top heavy. You've got the big 3. I mean, and that's essentially what we've got again right now.
You there, Logan?
Yeah, sorry, you were glitching.
I know, my internet up here sucks. it's not good. It's a work in progress.
But no, I was just talking about how Weiser, it's Homedale, Sugar, and Weiser. Those are the big 3, and I think that's still the case. Somebody else will somebody by default has to be in the semifinals with those 3. But is there anything? But you know what? I look at what McCall Donnelly did this week against Wood River, a Wood River team that had beaten South Fremont, and say, hey, maybe this team is something that we should talk about right now.
Yeah, it's I think McCall Donnelly is a team to keep an eye on for sure, but we'll see how that all shakes out. Let's wrap up with 8-man football. Logan, Notus goes to Clearwater Valley. This is a game that I was at on IdahoSports.com. Tiago Pickering takes the opening kickoff back for a touchdown for Clearwater Valley. Notus goes, okay, we're not kicking to that guy ever again. And not only are we not kicking to that guy, we're going to go for an onside kick. They got 2 consecutive onside kicks in that first half, and they cashed in on both of those drives, and that allowed Notus to build up this little cushion, and then they kind of matched each other score for score the rest of the way. But I loved the aggressiveness from Coach Joe Woodland and his staff, and Grayson Benitez was the leading receiver for not just Notus, but the entire conference last year. Because of injuries, they've had to move him to running back. Yeah, I'd say that's working out okay. 6 touchdowns in total, 5 on the ground. Obviously, our IdahoSports.com player of the game.
And so I was listening to your 8-man Prepcast as I was driving to East Idaho last week. And you guys were saying, when is the conference over here going to break through in the playoffs, right? We see teams make it, but can't win. But Notus dropping 72 points on the road on a White Pine team, I think lifts my eyebrows a little bit and says, all right, maybe this is the year. I mean, that is a lot of points. That is a huge win on the road for Notus. I mean, they lost to Clearwater Valley last year at home, and a big win for them. So I'm very impressed with Notus here.
Yeah, I think Notus won that game last year at home against.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they won that game.
Wrong.
But it was closer than this one was for sure. But for Notus, the big thing is going to be health, right? They're missing one guy for the entire season. One guy. So I talked to both of the injured players at halftime. I went down to their sideline, and Gunnar Campbell tore his ACL in summer camp, and so he's done for the entire school year. No other sports at all, which is a bummer. Ian Hill is the other, and he was going to be the running back, and then Ian Hill was going to be the fullback, and he I said, how'd you get hurt? He said, I was riding my dirt bike and I basically, bruised a couple ribs and punctured a lung. And then he looks at me and goes, I'll be back in a couple weeks.
Oh man, that's
a tough
that's
kid.
an Idaho thing to hear, right? Oh, I was riding my dirt bike. You're right. They did win. I looked. I was totally wrong. I don't know how I was that off.
Yeah, there went my internet again.
You're back.
Ian Hill didn't like us talking about. Yeah, there's my internet back. So yeah, Ian Hill's a tough kid. Dirt bike injury. He'll be back in a couple weeks. And we'll see if they keep Benitez in the backfield or move him back to wide receiver. But it was a very impressive win for Notus. Certainly on the road. And then 1A D2, the big story to me was Garden Valley going over to Dietrich and knocking out the Blue Devils, a team that made the championship game last year, 37-14. I think Garden Valley is the team to beat in District 3. Council, of course, had to go up and play Kendrick, so you can't compare apples to oranges, but I really like this Garden Valley team.
Yeah, I would love to listen. I'll have to listen to your 8-man Prepcast this week with Will, because I think there's a ton of interesting stuff in this league right now. Like you mentioned, Council going up there, but even Cascade. I mean, they had a huge win against Idaho City, and I mean, this is a team that didn't even have a team a couple years ago, played a hybrid schedule, and then absolutely demolishes a 1A D1 school. That's an impressive win. But like you said, Garden Valley might be better than we all thought. Not that anybody thought Garden Valley wasn't good, but maybe this team is legit. I mean, last year they went on the road in the playoffs and beat Mullen up there. And so you were there for that one, I think, right, Brandon?
Yep.
But this is a team knocking off, a state championship qualifier from a year ago. Everybody wants a shot at Kendrick, and maybe Garden Valley has a shot at it. Again, probably not, but they are looking like maybe the team that can compete with them right now.
Yeah, Tacoma Kelly, 4 touchdowns passing, a touchdown and a partridge in a pear tree. And for Cascade, yes, out of those names we saw in basketball, right? Cascade made state in basketball last year. Tyler Thurston, Cole Olson, the same guys kind of leading the football charge. And yeah, keep an eye on Cascade as well for sure. Okay, let's talk about what's on the broadcast schedule this week on IdahoSports.com in the Treasure Valley. Tonight, Logan, Thursday night football. We've got 2 games on tap for you. Eagle at Kuna, Skyview at Middleton. Both are going to be really interesting. Yeah, obviously, Kuna and Eagle is a battle of undefeated teams, and we'll find out, how legit Kuna is. But I'm kind of interested in this Skyview at Middleton game as well. You're going to be on the call for that. You're going to get to see Cash Buse slinging the rock around for Skyview.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that one goes for him. I mean, Middleton had a huge win last week against Nampa. Okay, Brandon, I have a story about this game since we're talking about it. There's 2 people. They are partners. I think they co-own or manage this car wash business called Lepco, right, in Boise. One has a kid that plays for Middleton. One has a kid that plays for Skyview, right? So they have some friendly banter back and forth. And I'll show these pictures on my broadcast. But the Middleton parent went and decked out, and this guy, his name's Kent, he's some sort of assistant coach with Skyview, but she decorated his office full of Middleton gear this week in preparation for this game. Put a sign on his door that said, "#1 Vikings fan, I want to be a Middleton Viking head coach." And this picture has Middleton players on it. While he has his picture of his son that plays for Skyview. So just kind of a funny little banter back and forth before this game gets going tonight.
That's funny. I like that. That's a really fun, interesting anecdote. I think Middleton wins.
Yeah, I do too. And if you get back to the football side of it, I think Middleton wins. I think they're better. Again, the same thing as last year. I think they're better than people put them on paper for. I think that they're going to be competitive. Obviously, they hung with Rocky Mountain for a while. So I think they're going to be better than people expected them to be.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that tonight. I'll get to sit back and relax and watch a little football tonight. That'll be a lot of fun. And then of course Friday, we've got those two Treasure Valley games. The battle in Boise. You've got Emmett taking on Fruitland, and then the nightcap Valley View taking on Burley. The Fruitland Emmett game is at 5:30. And then Burley and Valley View is going to kick off at 8:00.
Yeah, nobody told me that game was at 8:00. That's too late for me.
That's a late one.
I'm just kidding.
No, you're good. That's a late one for sure, but it's going to be well worth it. And then little bonus for all the Ridgeview fans. Ridgeview is traveling all the way across the state to Pocatello. If you're not making the drive, settle in on IdahoSports.com for Gate City game night. Those are our Pocatello broadcasts. We will have Ridgeview at Pocatello as Coach Impameni leads the Warhawks, into Pocatello. This should be a fun one too. Friday night, 7:00.
Yeah, we've tried to make it a point to hit these games, right? That are like we were over there for Madison and Hawaii, right? Where teams are traveling a long distance. Like we'll have Meridian is going to go to Highland in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be there for that one, right? Thunder Ridge is coming to play Middleton. We'll have that one, right? So we're trying to help out everybody so you don't have to drive across the state. If you're a cousin, nephew, whatever it is, you can just sit back and watch it on Idaho Sports.
Yeah. You can check the game streams tab to see all of the games that are taking place across the state here on IdahoSports.com. All right. Logan, we did it. 31 minutes. We got in and out. We hit the topics we needed to. Yeah, we tend to be long. So big thanks to everybody for tuning into the Treasure Valley Prepcast. Be on the lookout for that interview with Cam Anderson, the head coach at Burley, talking about the battle in Boise, and enjoy all of the games that we've got for you this weekend on IdahoSports.com. For Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.